understand on here is what is investment bank. So when you talk about investment bank, these are basically entities which help companies in a very short form. If we say, if we have to define them in one line, they help companies in raising capital and doing corporate actions. Rest we can divide them into, let's go to our OneNote. So in one line, if I have to define, I'll say investment banks are entities which help companies in raising capital and doing corporate actions. Now, when we are talking about raising capital, as Suman said, we can be looking into securitization of securities, where we have loans which can be securitized and sold again as bonds to the customers. So when we talk about this raising capitals, we can divide them into two broader parts: equity and debt. And everything which relates to interest and other parts can go into the debt side, and other things can come into the equity side. Or we can have hybrid structures also running. We'll talk about them when we go into more into the product side. So here we can divide the raising capital into either in the form of equity or in the form of debt. So could be a bank loan or some guarantees running into it. Equities, we can have IPOs, FPOs, private placements, all those things coming to raising the capital. When we come to the corporate action side, then these are the things that companies are doing from the corporate side. What they include? They include your mergers and acquisitions, M&A, any spin-off, split-offs, or any corporate action, company restructuring. So we all come as a part of the entire process. So in nutshell, without going too much into the bookish definition, if someone says what investment banking is, so these are the entities which help companies in raising capital and doing the corporate actions. So what, when we say raising capital, you can talk about equity and debt. When we talk about corporate actions, we can talk about mergers, acquisitions, spin-off, splits off, and other things which are coming into it. So these are the basic things that an investment bank normally does. So let's go ahead and understand this into a little more detail. So now, when we go a little ahead, you will understand that the concept of investment bank does not exist to the core as it was before 2008 subprime crisis. A lot of things have changed, and in fact, we do not have something legally known as investment bank. They are all bank holding companies now. Coming of the Volcker Act, we'll discuss few things running in here, that will make us understand what we are going to learn in the program. So let's quick fire go through our presentation, and then we'll go into the practical side of it. So what does investment bank do? They help corporate lending in the form of raising capital through equity underwriting, issuance of bond and bridge loans. In short, equity and debt. You should always have a small definition running with you, because understand, there were two phases of our working. For working guys, they already understand. For freshers who are coming in as freshers, now when you were writing those exams, things were different. You have to write the entire theory and things. When you're sitting in an interview, your answers should be to the point and technically correct. I'll give you my way of answering certain things. You can add your views on it, but create an answer which you can easily give back, or easily when you're sitting in a tense environment of your interview, you should be easily recollecting it. So what is investment bank? You should make, and as I have discussed earlier, keep a pen and paper handy with you. This entire report file will be there on your learning management platform, but I'll still suggest keep a pen and pad with you and keep writing few points. Not the entire thing, just write the questions that we are discussing. So that at the end, you should not be looking forward for us to give you more questions and things. You already know what can come in here. So coming back to this, they help companies in doing corporate restructuring, advisory. They provide defense on hostile takeovers. This is nothing but a part of M&A only. They provide brokerage services, as Vishwa was talking about, helping companies to raise capital or invest, or I think one of our friends also talked about the portfolios. So they are all part of our brokerage services. And the research is also normally a part of brokerage. If it is industry and company, if it is for any specific product, then the research could be something else. So in a nutshell, they help companies to do two basic things: raise capital and provide advisory, or you can say corporate actions. So that we can work upon. Now let's go into the difference between the investment bank versus a regular bank. Before 2008 subprime crisis, the structures were very different. Uh, Very different in the sense, when we used to talk about the leverage is taking, you have 100 rupees in your pocket and you are buying for 200. So your leverage is 10 times, 1 times your amount. So leverage is basically the money that you do not have. We'll come to leverage, basically utilization of debt to increase the returns. But let's not go into technical definitions. Let's understand it in a very basic thing. I had X amount in my pocket and I can do Y, which is greater than X. That is what is leverage. So if I have X amount in my pocket and I can do some transaction based on Y, where Y is always greater than X, the difference is your leverage. So the difference amount I don't have in my pocket, but I'm still buying or selling securities in the market. That is what is leverage. So once we come to the subprime crisis, we need to understand historically what has happened. And COVID would be our prime focus when we go into this, the impact of this thing on the companies and how companies are reacting to it. Before that, we'll also talk about subprime crisis and other things. We'll give you in the economy section to work upon. So now, based these things that we are going to discuss, this is after 2008. The structures have changed. So what is the difference between a regular bank or investment bank? India, we call them as merchant bankers. MBs in IPOs, you will see merchant banker rather than an investment banker written. So what happens in here? In a regular bank, what does a customer do? They can go and deposit the money. They can withdraw the money, they can deposit the money. But investment banks cannot do this money transaction day in, day out. Yes, they can offer some deposits, like NBFCs in India do a different deposits schemes that they get approved from RBI and they sell it to the public. But they cannot do a daily money transaction. That is the basic difference between these two banks. For a banking, the main business is CASA, current account, savings account, or what we call it as spread, the difference that we have in what the bank is earning and what bank is paying. In the investment banking world, we have different revenue streams. Now, what does bank do? They provide loans and they take deposits. That's the main business of a bank. Or they open accounts in the form of current account and savings account. And we call it as CASA as the bread and butter for the bank. They also get third-party income, TPP, from selling of insurance and other things. But that should not be a major part of the banking business. So their major revenue comes from this place. But when you go to the investment bank, you will see their major revenue is coming from brokerage. They are either in intermediary, or they are either the brokerage house, or they are more into advisory services where they are getting it done. So most of the banks in India who provide advisory services, they can only provide advisory. We cannot give a buy and sell call. I'll come to those regulations little later. Let's understand the basic things between IB and regular. So on a ground level, a regular bank can do a deposit and withdrawal like we do with our banks. Investment banks cannot. And I'll come back to the flow of money once we understand how the money flows inside an investment bank or how they generate their revenue. Two things for the entire program should be there at the back of your mind. Anytime, anything that you pick up, any company, any industry, you have to have two basic elements running at the back. How is that thing generating revenue and what are the cost drivers? So revenue drivers and cost drivers. From today itself, whenever you get something, you should start thinking in that way. What are the revenue drivers or how we can generate or companies generating revenue and what are their cost drivers? Remember the concept. I'm not asking you to do it everything right away, but as and when we move into more into it, we'll understand those drivers. Sarath, which part you're talking about? IB versus regular bank? This part only, na? The IB versus regular bank, Sarath? You can just put a message running in there. Let's see, Martin got a message. So when we talk about a regular bank, what does a regular bank do? We can make deposits and we can make withdrawals. And their main business is their deposits and withdrawals, interest received and interest paid. Whereas when we go to investment bank, they cannot do this business. They cannot take the deposits and withdrawals or do withdrawals as a regular bank does. Their revenue streams are different. So I'll not go into revenue streams right now because we'll analyze Goldman Sachs annual report today to understand how they are getting the revenue. So if you look at here, I've opened the GS report. So what does GS talk about? If you look at their verticals as investment banking, I'll have this entire thing as an hyperlink to your model. And I'll also show you how do you get these annual reports and things. So investment banks serve public and private sector clients across the world. And what they do, we provide financial advisory services, help companies raise capital to strengthen and grow their business and provide financing to corporate clients. So this is the basic thing that Goldman Sachs does. And I'll take you through all of this going forward. Let's go a little more into this. Question: do we have separate IBs? Why this question came into picture is before 2008, 7 or 8 crisis. I normally say impact came in 2008 very heavily. So we do not have the separate IBs. They were all independent entities working on their own. There were no regulations running it. Then came the crisis. The entire financial world shattered all across the globe. The markets crashed. Banks have to be bailed out. Few bailed out. Few have perished. So because of that, new regulation came into picture. Oh, no worries. If I have missed something, Sarath, you can go through the videos and you can let me know if you do not understand a certain part. Because I could not get it, so I moved to the next slide. So what has happened? These investment banks now are a part of bank holding company, or we called it as holding company. So instead of having their separate entities, now they are the indirectly or indirectly part of some retail or commercial banking chain. The regulations have changed. So if we say I'm working hardcore into IB, yes, you profile wise we are working into investment banks, but technically we do not have a separate investment bank, right? Especially in US, everything is now a bank holding company. GS is also a, if you look at GS here, you can find Group Inc. is a bank holding company, BHC, and a holding company, FHC, regulated by Board of Governors of Federal Reserve System. Our depository institute subsidiary, Goldman Sachs Bank, New York-based chartered bank. So they're also a part of your bank holding companies. If you need more on BHC, I can put on more on BHC, but we do not require. We just need to understand, because interviews will not be focusing on my work, will not focus whether I'm working in a bank holding company or the other thing. But you need to understand that we do not have separate investment banks as of now. They're all part of bank holding company. Because of the crisis and the leverage that banks have taken, and regulations were not there to work upon. The structures such as securitization was one of the major cause of this entire thing. Where we talk about ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, in the crisis of 2007-8. We'll come back to this, but understand, we do not have a separate investment banks as of now. They're all bank holding companies. So why this happened? This happened because of the crash of 7 and 8. They all came under bank holding company. I've given you some examples of what has happened with the big shots. The collapse of Lehman Brothers was one of the hardest thing that we had to take across in 7-8 crisis. I was there in the market. Few of my juniors got an offer from Lehman Brothers and they got their pink slips, could not make it. So, this was big, could be saved, but was not saved. That's a different scenario altogether. So it collapsed. One of the biggest tragedies that we had in 8 crisis was Lehman Brothers. BSN Stearns went to JP Morgan Chase. Merrill Lynch was with BOA. Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, they all become bank holding company, as I was just showing you in their annual report also. So this happened because of change in regulation. Now, this is only for your understanding. I do not want you to go into Dodd-Frank Act or Volcker rule. Just understand the basics of it. That few reforms came in which changed the entire structure of a investment banking. The entire thing got changed. And why we should know it? Because we are going to work into these banks. We should understand the basics of this. So first thing that came was Dodd-Frank Wall Street reform. There are a lot of articles there. If you need, I can give you the entire regulation. But that is something you should be doing when you have free time. Because these regulations, when we talk about regulations, we have lawyers who specialize into business laws. And they would be the more equipped guy to handle these things. So whenever we work with a team, we'll always have a legal team to look into it. But basic names, we should always know. So in July 2010, the entire thing changed and the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reforms and Consumer Protection Act came into picture. So what was this act all about? In financial system, if you look at here, it says too big to fail. There was a concept which used to run, and investment banks were measured based on the AUM they were handling, asset under management, how much volumes they had, how much revenues they were generating. Normally on the they were managing. And when something was big, as big as Lehman Brothers and things, we always had they're too big to fall. In the sense, they are so big in structure that they cannot fall. That was a basic conception running in the mind. But then came 2007 and 8, and everything shattered. And that is where these things came into picture. So a lot of things changed, especially on the proprietary trading side, which was given to the investment banks. Proprietary is basically when you are doing trading on your own funds, which you have taken from the clients. If you look at Indian markets, last 1 year, SEBI has introduced a lot of new norms in the equity markets based on trading margins, what brokers can keep, what brokers cannot keep. I'll take you through basics of it when we go into the financial markets. So when we talk about IB, we don't normally talk about bigger markets that were there in US, UK. So US, you have the entire thing changed, and that basically was the norm across the globe. So they removed that concept of too big to fail. Everything was scrutinized. They have regulations coming, and then came the Volcker rule, or what we call it as Volcker Act. It is a part of Dodd-Frank Act, which stopped these institutions from doing proprietary trade. Proprietary means when you are doing for it for themselves. And it limits their sponsorship. Sponsorship means that they used to channelize their fund through hedge funds, private equity funds. That all came to and it was basically put under regulation. Now, anything you do not understand, like proprietary trading, sponsorships, and things, we'll come back to all of them when we go to financial markets. But as of now, understand that there were caps which were put. Initially, there were no regulations which were looking at what these banks were doing, how much leverage they were taking. So simple example, if you look at what has happened here was adjustable rate mortgage. So we have something known as ARMs. So what were these ARMs? Just giving you a 2008 crisis basics to give you an example of how these banks were mishandling the money, I'll say. I'll not say anything else, but let's put it like that. So what they did was people, that is where we call this as subprime crisis. What is prime? Prime is something which is very good. What is subprime? Something which is below the good part. So people in US, when we look at the historical thing, the Fed rates were very low in 2000, 2001, 2, 3. They were very, very, very low. So they started pitching property as an investment vehicle to the investors. Now, investors said, or the client said, we do not have money to pay. So they came up with ARM, adjustable rate mortgages. They say, don't pay it for next 2 or 3 years, whatever the years that you pick up, whatever the product that was given. ARM is a general rate, which says that you are deferring your amounts. So adjustable rate mortgage, what they did, they give them some free time not to pay anything, and then pay the EMI or the entire thing based on 2 things. One, the Fed rate, whatever with the Fed rate that time, plus some quoted margin. What is this quoted margin? This is their profit percent. So they, whatever the Fed rate is, let's say you pay 2% more because you are not paying it for first 2 years. And this will keep changing. Like you have, if you have heard of home loans, which is flexible or flexi loans, where the interest rate changes as per the benchmark rate. Same thing was offered to them. The only difference was they were not paying anything. And in between, the Fed rate increased. Now, since, and what has happened on these loans, they were again securitized and sold to the investors in the form of bonds. How that is, and I'll take you through the entire process when we go to bonds. Securitization we'll cover up in bonds. So what was the interest on these bonds? The interest was what they would be receiving from here. So investors purchase those bonds and give back money to these investment bankers, which they again rotated. So they started leveraging again. And then came the time to pay the interest. And what happened in the meantime? Fed rate increased tremendously. And people were unable to pay their EMI. And most of them has taken this as the second house. So they preferred not to take the house only. They say, okay, if you want a mortgage, you can take the mortgage. Take the property. What this created was a wave of, a bubble which busted. And that is what happened in very short in subprime crisis. These guys could not pay the interest. People who have asked these bonds claim on the property of this assets, and they have to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy. US bank filing bankruptcy is a very easy thing compared to what we have in India. Sir, yes, it would be a little confusing. Reason you are not aware of most of these products that I am talking about. Why you will not be aware? Because we have not gone into the subprime crisis. You will understand it more today. At the end of the day, we will be assigning you to do some projects in it, and then you will start understanding. You might not be that much aware of the crisis that happened in 2007 and 8, which we call it a subprime crisis. That could be the reason that you might not be understanding. But don't get worried. This all what I'm talking on technical side, ARM, prime, subprime, securitization, we'll all come back to this when we do our modules on this. So we have modules on equity, debt, derivatives, they all are there. So as and when we reach there, this will start, you will start understanding a little more. My only suggestion for all of you would be, whenever you get time, read about subprime crisis. To be a very good investment banker, you should understand what people have done over a period of time. We learn from the mistakes, and you can only learn when you know about what went wrong in here. So if any one of you is planning to do an FRM, in the part 1, you have a complete book which talks about, there are the 2 chapters which talks about what went wrong historically in the financial modeling world, in the trading zone, where people actually traded, and you can find the entire thing in those books. So that helps you out in understanding what went wrong. I'll take you through this, but if you get time, please read on subprime crisis, read on 2012 European crisis. Don't go back beyond that. Then read about Corona. Most of us know, a lot of things about Corona, but now we'll not look into the virus itself. We'll look at the impact that it had on our markets, the company's profitability, and what companies have done for them. It is there in the annual report, so I'm not asking you to read the Corona thing as of now. Just read subprime crisis and read European crisis. Only 2 crises. So there was something which has happened in last 3-4 decades. That is what you should be knowing. And enough data is available on web to read it. I'll also take you through, I'll ask you to make presentations on it. This is week 1, so we are just understanding the basics. We'll go more into it so that you understand what has happened. And if something you're not understanding, please don't get worried. Since it came in context, so I have started jotting down in here. I will again do it when we move into those products, like this entire part, securitization and this thing. I'll take you through when we go into the bonds.